So I'm David Hoodis. I'm the CEO of Mood Media. Been with the company about 90 days now, and very excited about our future and our past. And I'm happy to share the stage with a good friend of mine, Mark Williamson, who both of us have legacy at Walmart stores down in Bentonville. And Mark and I have worked more closely together in the last few years on a lot of things related to personalization, the future of retail, and the future of the retail landscape. So I'm going to kick it off with a few questions.
Sure.
And kind of make it a little bit more interactive here. And so Mark has been a media expert. I would call media expert. He's one that I learn from every time I talk to him. And as you look at the future of retail and you look at where the world is moving at the speed of retail, as we always talk about,
Yep.
what do you see as some of the challenges facing Ahold Delhaize, and as you move forward, what does it look like?
For retail, the biggest challenges that we face as it relates to making connections with consumers. If we look at the history of retail, it's if you wind the clock all the way back to when a lot of our local brands started, we have brands that were started in the late 1800s and many that were started in 1915 and in the 1920s. And back then you'd have a grocery store owner who knew all of his customers one-to-one. And so personalization at that point was to have an intimate knowledge of the customer, what their name was, what they bought, what they didn't buy, and then anticipating their needs and serving them on a one-to-one basis. But it's very much a human connection. And if we fast forward to where we are today, we have 22 brands globally. We have about 40 million customers. A lot of ones that we're trying to connect to one-to-one, which is very, very difficult to do at scale. And so I think the biggest challenge for retailers is to maintain or maybe recapture that previous relationship that a retailer had with a customer, but do it at scale and do it quickly and do it effectively.
And I would say being intimate with a customer is a difficult thing, right? But it's not a 80-20 thing. It's not a 20-80 thing, it's an 80-20 thing or a 90-10 thing. It's really getting that last 10% right, and it seems insurmountable, but leveraging your technology. So as you look at your in-store canvas, as our title says, and you look at the Ahold brand, the Ahold Delhaize brand, how do you interact? How do you see yourself interacting with customers differently in the future? And how do companies like Mood Media help you get there quicker?
So, I mean, for several years, we've relied on data to help us make those connections. And as digital media has really taken shape, as it gets better, faster, more precise, a lot of our efforts are around how do we use data to talk to our customers digitally. So that's online, on their mobile devices, connected TV sets, addressable TV, all the different ways we can connect to them. But when we look at the store, it's very much how it always was. They walk in, they have a list, they walk around, and we introduce digital in ways that we can. So we have a product called Scan It, where people can check themselves out on a mobile device. We try things like digital signage. We have music. But for us, it's really about trying to capture that one-to-one connection digitally in store, like we do digitally online. And that's a big challenge. There's a lot of hurdles to getting there. So we look to companies like Mood Media to help us figure out solutions to those problems, to be able to deliver, whether it's more dynamic communication or personalized communication to our customers at the right time, at the right place, and really being much more engaging during their shopping experience.
Great. And so Mark, as you move forward, and I talked about speed, and one of the things that, if any retailers are out there, they take our advice, move faster. Retailers are not known to move fast. And I know you and I talked about the innovation labs that you're putting together at Ahold Delhaize all over the world, at Peapod labs. And what advice do you give companies that are in the same boat?
Yeah, well, I think it's adopting an agile mindset that's very common in say in Silicon Valley or like in Austin where you're from. There's this mentality of sprints, designing quickly, failing fast, and constantly iterating. And I think for retailers in a store, it's a sacred space. There's a lot of legacy knowledge of how things have worked, how they should work. But what retailers in general are less amenable to is that willingness to test, to iterate, to fail, and to change quickly. And so that's the mentality we're trying to infuse at Ahold Delhaize, is to say, here's some ideas. We need to be nimble, we need to try, and we need to be ready to scale when we find an idea that really works. And so you'll see in our stores, like just even in the US, we have about 2,100 stores, you'll see ordering kiosks, you'll see menu boards, you'll see department screens, entry screens, digital shelf edge, fuel station video, and some evolution around what we're doing with music and sound in the store. And right now they're disparate, they're disconnected. And I think for retailers to really make a difference is to have a vision, have an idea of what success looks like, and then moving as quickly as possible when you find a winning idea.
Yeah, and one of the challenges that we have, and we have 1,700 people around the world that serve our customers, is scale, right? And so as we talk about the number of stores you have worldwide and the amount of scale you guys have, cost becomes a factor.
Yes.
And so I always share with my team that you have to not just think about the customer, think like a customer. And I think we have a great team of folks. We have one of our French colleagues here from around the world that really think and breathe and live their customers' journeys. And a part of that is understanding the cost factors that go into this, because we all can look around this beautiful show and see compelling factors that will bring me into the store, but it's not affordable at 2,000, 3,000 stores. And so as you're doing that and justifying it, how are you measuring success?
So we measure success a lot of different ways, but primarily when you're a retailer, our aim is to win the week. So when we make decisions about what goes where, what things are priced at, and what we emphasize every week, it's about how do we drive sales that week. And if you look at the investment required to get into a piece of digital signage or to install new technology, new sensors, anything like that in the store, it's really hard to build a business case if you're trying to win the week. And so developing a longer term mentality of what success looks like, understanding what this kind of experience and engagement can mean for your brand long term is of critical importance. And so we look beyond just winning the week. We look at customer perception over time, whether it's perception of price and value, or are we a preferred place to shop? And so we know that with so much retail moving online in a grocery store format, we still people are still coming into the store, but customers will migrate to where the experience is the best. And so we understand that digital and innovation are critical to delivering on customers' expectations, because it's more than a cool factor. It's a what's the utility that we're adding to their shopping experience? Are we helping them discover things? Are we telling good stories? So we think about it. Our merchants spend a lot of time finding the best products at the best prices. They look for sustainably sourced products. They look for local, non-GMO, organic, and a lot of these stories can't be told with a physical price sign. But with digital, it allows us to really make those customer connections on a deeper level, on a more emotional level. Which again, when you're talking about a business model, we have to factor that in a little bit differently. It's more than just selling more units of X in 1 week.
Right. And it looks a similar challenge that we have, right? So we have a company of size and scale, and we have to move at a rapid pace. One of my favorite quotes is that in the future, as we look to the future, it's not the big eating the small, it's the fast eating the slow. And so our mantra internally is about elevating the experience, and it's for our customers, for our clients, their customers, and our people. And part of it is moving at a rapid pace, and it's trying new things, and it's getting started. And what I applaud about you guys is that you're actually out there doing it and trying it and willing to fail and fail fast and fail cheap, kind of taking the mantra from a Silicon Valley or a startup mentality. When you integrate the in-store and offline experience, right, and then your Peapod piece, you're really touching the customer holistically.
Yep.
How do you see that in-store experience driving really the difference maker, because that's how you're going to win in an Amazon world? Yeah.
So as we, if we look at kind of, we're on the flip side of the Amazon's journey. We built our business on brick and mortar, and omni-channel is where our future is, where people are ordering online for delivery, ordering online to pick up in store, or they're just starting their shopping experience online to build a list or load coupons or become inspired. Whereas Amazon's the opposite way around. They're bringing the online mentality into the physical store, and each of us will face challenges as we go through that. But one of the interesting things is I represent a company called Peapod Digital Labs, which historically is a pure play e-commerce retailer. We do delivery services in Chicago where we don't have any physical locations, and then we provide delivery services for our brands in the Northeast. And the reason why we are coupling digital in-store with digital online is because there has to be a connection between that. How a customer engages with us online, what they see, what they feel, the data that we leverage to pull off that experience has to match what happens in store to make sure that that brand experience is seamless all the way through, and that we're treating the customer the same way. Because to them, it's not 3 separate business units delivering those messages. It's just one experience with one brand, and it's much easier to pull that off when we have connected experiences. My team also manages what I call our dinosaur media channels in store, all of our print signage, cart advertisements, and these sorts of things. None of those are connected. They can't connect to customers' mobile devices. We can't get immediate reads on engagement, and we certainly can't connect to how people are browsing our online website. So digital creates an ecosystem for us to connect those worlds in a way we never have before.
So if you guys are if you're paying attention, if I do a little me search, not research here, when you think about an experience, a store that you like, and hopefully it's a Ahold Delhaize store, you know, the experience does matter, right? And we believe at Mood Media, being an 80-year-old company with roots all over the world, that our experience helps you elevate your experience. But when you talk about experience mattering, and you talk about the difference maker, and you driving that trip, you know, it's hard sometimes to justify a new screen.
Yeah.
Right, and it's hard to justify those things. And as you look across the retail landscape and you look at your 22 brands, where do you see yourself doing it well in connecting with the consumer?
Yeah. In general, you know, our U.S. business is the biggest piece of the business. A lot of that has to do with geography and the size of the market that we're competing in. But our European businesses tend to move a lot faster in this area, especially as it relates to digital signage and trying new things. And so we have our marquee brand in the Netherlands, Albert Heijn, I think is really a leader in this space, in helping push the envelope on what we can do from a digital perspective. And so we see a lot of cross-pollination of what's possible. I would say in the U.S., our funding model is a little bit differently. We rely on media partnerships, which is what my team is dedicated on, is partnering with essentially consumer packaged good manufacturers to help bring their messages into our store. And so we use this channel as a way to generate revenue, which helps us offset the costs. And so I think a lot of the mentality of how to actually fund a business like this exists in the U.S., and we're sharing it internationally. And the dedication to trying and testing and really connecting with consumers in a more modern way is being led out of Europe. And so together, we think we can put together a business model that works not only for our business, but most importantly for our customers.
All right, one different question is, we look at, you talked about personalization, and you and I worked on personalization in my previous life.
Yeah.
How do you feel that technology, and we'll see it here, biometric, we'll see other beacon technology, will play into it with GDPR and other privacy factors taking hold?
Yeah, so it's a popular question, and so our mentality, and I think a lot of retailers share this as well, is that if we ask customers how they feel about privacy, they feel very strongly about it. They want their data protected or not collected at all. But then if we ask them, do you want personalized experiences? Do you want personalized recommendations? Do you want to be able to connect your device with our tools in store? They emphatically say yes. And so for us, we're like, hey, well, something's got to give. There's got to be a trade-off somewhere. And we feel that the only way to deliver on the types of sensors, tracking, or connected devices in the store is to do the same thing we do online, which is we need to offer transparency, and we need to offer utility to the customer for giving us permission to engage them in a much different, more dynamic way. So GDPR and other privacy regulations that we know are going to come to the U.S. are incredibly important to us. But retailers, I would say for us especially, we feel that our connection with our customers gives us a lot more latitude to use their data in a really dynamic way, to connect to their devices in a more dynamic way, as long as they trust that we're turning that into more personalized, more relevant, more engaging shopping experiences in the store.
And then when I talked about thinking like a customer, not thinking about the customer, what advice do you give? There's a few Mood Media folks here, and as others, suppliers, what advice do you give folks like us as we're looking at your business, and sometimes we're coming at you probably more transactional?
Yeah.
Advice you give us in terms of how we interact with you and people like you?
Yeah, so I think for, every retailer will have a group like mine, or they'll have an innovations team, or they'll have somebody who's really charged with figuring out the future of the retail space. But none of us are really experts in this area. And so I think thought leadership really becomes a critical component to it. And in order to be a thought leader is, one, to bring the vision, bring the ideas, bring the solutions that a retailer needs. but also understanding how a retailer goes to business. We talked a little bit about the business model, some of the funding pressures. We're not a high margin business that we operate in, and so we have to solve all of our problems within that context. And so I think understanding how retailers think and feel, how they're incentivized, and what challenges they're facing really is critical. But then I see the relationship as, how do you drag us into the future? We've talked about spending time with my team, with my leadership, to stop, pause, and say, here's something that you're missing, here's something that you haven't thought about yet. Let me show it to you, and let me help you understand how this can fit into your business. It's easier said than done, but I think in this case, retailers need to be dragged into the future, where, I mean, you can see here, we're there. There's a lot of great technology here, but we need a lot of coaxing to get there.
Yeah, for us, I mean, you talk about storytelling, and for us, my biggest challenge in the first 90 days is having the ability to tell our story. You can see a lot of the great stuff behind us. All of this stuff is live, it's working, it's scalable, it's working at locations all over the world. When we tell our story, I'm actually excited more every day when I learn more about the great things that Mood Media does and telling that story. So part of it is having the ability to tell the story, listen to the challenges you're facing, and then go solve problems at scale that makes sense for your customers. Because it's not about me, and it's your brand and not my brand. And so that's one of the challenges I've had in the first 90 days, is making sure that our story is being told in a way that that speaks well for Mood Media.
Very good. So I'll ask you a question. I'm going to turn the tables here. You're 90 days as a CEO. You spent several years as a data vendor, 8 years on the Walmart side, in and around this. How do you feel? Do you see retailer mindset shifting? Do you see their appetite for this type of capability changing? And if so, how?
There's a great article. Thanks, Mark. There's a great article in Wall Street Journal last week about Amazon and how Amazon didn't kill retail. It's the retailers killing themselves at times, right? And so part of it is, and that's why I really applaud Peapod Labs, which is a division that they really expanded in Chicago, which is outside of their main territory, to make sure they're always trying something new. And I'm challenging my team with the same thing. Trey Courtney, who spoke yesterday here at Tide Conference, runs our product development. We will have 5 to 7 new things being tried at all times. And so I think as a retailer, it's developing a methodology that's allowing you to test things and try things and moving at speed. I talked about the big not eating the small, but the fast eating the slow. And you could see story after story of that, and how that's going to continue to permeate through our network. The other part is we need to be a company that has more dreams than more memories. So we really need to be aspirational, and we need to be going for it. And so my push to my peers in retail, and I'm very vocal about it to my friends, is get started. Start somewhere. Let's get moving. And we are happy, and I'm sure you have other partners, we are happy to help, and we're happy to do it. I've told Mark this all the time, we will put stuff in wherever you want. Let's go test together, and let's make a difference, because really the future of retail depends on all of us to really create the right environment. And experience matters. Experience matters for the consumer, and it matters for us to be able to help you solve problems at a rapid pace, at the speed of retail. So as we wrap it up, and I know that we talked about commercialization and we talked about personalization, right? As you see, personalization really taking hold and talking to the consumer in a different way, and using media all through your channels, the data portion of that, right, which is related to what you and I used to work on together, plays into it. How do you see the commercialization affecting Ahold due to size versus some of your smaller competitors, and the changing as it relates to the trade funding and promotional dollars that you're getting? Because it's actually a big shift, right?
Yeah, it changes the perception of the offering. When we're working with product manufacturers, they want to do the same thing we do. They want to sell more products to more people more often. And data really helps deliver that in a much richer way, as does digital signage. And so a lot of what we do with data today, it's either we're learning what we should do or what we can do, or we're actually acting on the knowledge that we have by connecting data into digital media platforms and things of this like. So it has changed the conversation quite a bit, because now it's about, well, what else should we be doing? What else can we do? which is a big shift from where we've been in the past, which is very limited to, I think, a traditional retail format.
And our goal is, gone are the days when you look in the rearview mirror, but you're really solving problems for the future and helping you solve those problems.
Definitely.
So I think our message is move fast, right? Try things and have an approach to trying new things. I know I can speak for Mark, even though he works for All Delays, I'm sure he's happy to help anyone in the retail world because we're really in this together. And it's not Ahold fighting Kroger, they're fighting a different ecosystem. And so we're here happy to help you get started on your journey. Thanks for the time.
Thank you.